Okay, beginning of Arcane, episode 2, season 2, the Jinx Isha scene. The parallels in the scene are already so awesome. That is the first thing I love here that I want to talk about. This little girl, Isha, who is designed to feel like a little brown-haired Powder, is in a very similar situation to blue-haired Powder in season 1, episode 1. She is on the run from street thugs, and it's not like she has no tools, but she clearly does not have adequate tools to deal with them. We see her arrive at another situation reminiscent of season 1, episode 1 Powder, where she needs to leap across a physical distance that she's not sure she can make. And like Powder, she just barely crosses the distance, but it's still not enough, because she's too small, she's too weak, she's too unskilled. But then what happens? With Powder, she has Vi, who's right there above her to pull her up, and with Isha, she has Jinx, who's right there below her to cushion her fall. Vi helps Powder in their trajectory upward. She's trying to get them out of the terrible life of the Undercity. Jinx helps Isha by holding her in the depths and showing her that there's empowerment right here. It's not everything is going to be okay, it's this is desirable. Like, Jinx literally points the gun at her. She re-traps Isha in the same situation that was so oppressive for her just 2 seconds ago and says this is a good thing. Not just good, it's the best feeling ever. The whole scene is just really efficiently and powerfully setting up Jinx's big sister relationship with this new character, and then that parallel reinforces it so subtly. But going back to what Jinx says, this line...
You feel it? That... buzzing behind your eyes?
That's also a parallel. That's a direct callback to this line from Silco's monologue.
But then, there's this thing in your head, and it's raging, lighting every nerve with madness.
So they're also subtly showing us Silco's influence on his daughter and how it's translating to Jinx's new younger sibling figure in the same way as how Vander's influence on his daughter translated to her younger sibling.
Besides, this is exactly the sort of job Vander would have pulled when he was our age.
It's just so elegant. But then my favorite parallel has to be this.
Yep, that's me. That's me.
And that gets into the next thing I love about the scene, which is how it functions as an intro. Season 1 used Jinx's "That's Me" line to focus our perception of the character on certain aspects of her personality and certain ways she was positioned within the story. Personality-wise, Jinx is in her own world. She's making dangerous stuff in her creepy lab. She is oblivious. She's super disconnected to everything that's going on around her. She is avoidant. She blocks out her problems by keeping herself busy and filling her brain with noise. And she is Silco's daughter to the core. I mean, she's basically Silco's pet, if we're being honest. He likes her best locked away in her room, safe and sound, working on her gadgetry, not getting into any trouble. Contrast that with season 2, Jinx is out. She's exposed. She is roaming the streets of her city. And also what the identity of Jinx means has fundamentally changed. She is not just exposed to trouble. She's not just getting into trouble. She is the trouble. And that's what I find so delicate and so well done here. I don't want to dissect the whole musical montage before this right now, although FYI, I am loving the audio-visual storytelling in this season. It's been amazing. But this position Jinx is in our plot is just so juicy. It is so rich and interesting that you basically have this war going on between these powerful factions vying for all their own diabolical aims. It is ripping apart the Undercity, and then you have this lone figure who is moving through it all, who is party to none of the players involved, completely independent with no faction of her own. You'd think an individual like this would be a total nothing in this war, and yet she is the most important person in this conflict on an entirely different axis. She holds a type of weight that none of these people have, and everyone knows it. But then also she's a complete mystery to everyone. No one knows what really happened. They don't even know she was the one who killed Silco. They just know that she is at the center of it all. This is all because of her. And they're all terrified of her because they have no idea what she's capable of. Despite their power and their influence and their numbers, this lone girl has somehow single-handedly done more than any of them when it comes to the war. Both practically, on her own, she killed 3 of the most powerful people in Piltover. Symbolically, she destroyed their council chamber. And historically, she started the war on her own, by herself. Something all of them were way too scared to ever do. Something that even Silco wouldn't do. And then even the enemy considers her the #1 most important person in all of this. There's a weight to Jinx that we feel so strongly that clashes wonderfully with her smallness. It's in her body language, it's in the visuals, it's from the setting, the posters, and it's really strongly in this particular moment where her hood slips off and we see this reaction to just recognizing her, seeing the braids, and then of course her conversation with Isha. That's me, so casually like it's nothing, when everyone both on screen and off understands the terrifying significance variants of that now. So cool. Which is absolutely my third thing I love about the scene, Jinx's coolness. This whole season, she has just been radiating coolness, especially in this scene. But I want to talk about that because this is a deceptively slippery concept, coolness. What does that mean? If you're a writer and you want to write cool character being cool, a cool moment, what can we glean from the way Jinx is here or the way she behaves here? It's a pretty big topic and probably deserves its own video, but I think this scene really efficiently just shows the whole gamut of characteristics we tend to call cool, and it points to a broader working definition that I think should be pretty easy to apply for writers. So starting with just characteristics, in this scene we see Jinx displaying confidence, charisma, comfort in her own skin, independence. She's in total control here, but more than that, she's above it all. She is free. She doesn't really need anything. She is emotionally stable, which is kind of unusual in a chaotic, turbulent situation like this, in a chaotic, turbulent world like this. And most importantly, she does not give a fuck. She is so far from the angsty, insecure, broken mess we saw in season 1. No, she is past that. She is Jinx. She is in the Jinx chair. We see her acting all weird and jinxy, acting in ways that might feel humiliating if we try to act that way. But for her, there's not a speck of self-consciousness, there's not a speck of conflict or discomfort or anything, because she just doesn't care anymore. And then also, just look at her. She's young and interesting looking, she's got style, she's got flair. Women want to be her, men want to also be her. Who are we kidding? Everyone wants to be this cool. Okay, so what's the principle here? What can we induce from all this? So the working definition of cool I'm seeing here is this: above the problems other people struggle with, plus desirable traits. That encompasses all of what we just described, both about how Jinx acts, but also about the position she's in within the Undercity. It's actually very similar to Vi last season post-time skip. It's why she was so cool. She was totally free and independent of all the problems of the people around her, both practically and emotionally. She was detached and aloof from all the factions. She did not give a fuck at all. Plus the desirable traits: strong, charismatic, admirable, youthful, attractive. A lot of this also applies to Mel. ARCANE just really knows how to do cool. And Jinx in the scene just exudes so much of it so powerfully. From the time we see her walking alone through the Undercity, to the moment her hood casually slips off, to the way she kills these thugs with total ease, to the weirdo speech she gives Isha that drips with confidence, to her charismatic self-acceptance at the end. Characters, in my opinion, just don't get cooler than this. This is the peak. Okay, number 4 is the POOW. That visualization is such a tiny but perfect little touch, and it's on multiple levels. For one, it's just satisfying. We have emotion and a sound that all kind of converges on this exact point, and then the POOW visual highlights that single point in a way that's just super cathartic. It's like those satisfying GIF montages, but then it also just totally fits with the tone of the show. Alex D and Christian Link have talked before about how their goal for the feel of things in ARCANE is grimsicle, i.e. grim plus whimsical, and this tiny little animation just flares up that tone immediately as soon as we see it. But then also here in this scene, having this visual in this way serves a pretty important function, because Jinx is miming shooting herself in the head, which is pretty dark, but this part of the story isn't dark. Jinx just saved a child's life. She's giving her words of empowerment, so this visualization appropriately softens what Jinx is doing. Instead of the doom and gloom we might normally feel from a character doing this, what do we get instead? Fluffy pink smoke clouds. It really just releases all the tension that we felt building up in the seconds right before this. And then also just so appropriate for the character. This POOW visual feels so Jinxy in every way because she is Grimsicle. That is her. What this character is softened, super dark, personified. And her thing is externalized madness and chaos. In season 1, practically every scene with her, we got the scratches and the ghosts and the voices, not to mention all the drawings and creepy mannequins, and just general mad artistic expression all over the place. What this character feels has always been artistically projected onto the world for us to see. So now this season, we're generally seeing that she is healthier for the most part, but here's a little sign that she's still the Jinx we love with all of her externalized chaos. It's just lighter now. It's less threatening, but still a little dark. Okay, number 5 was a topic I found in trying to figure out why the scene was so engaging, because as tempting as it was to say it was just Jinx, great character, favorite character, therefore engagement, it definitely felt like it was more than that. And it's a writing topic that I think is really important, but I feel like it's rarely discussed. Number 5 is focus. Here's the pattern. We got 3 bullet points. New element introduced, big shift, consequences unclear. In this scene, we are in music video storytelling mode, and then new focus, Isha falls on Jinx. We can break that down. New element introduced, Jinx. Big shift, Isha was being pursued by these goons before, now we've escaped by poking a new monster, and consequences unclear. How will Jinx react? That creates tension. Then, new focus, thugs slide down and follow us. We can break that down. New element introduced, thugs. Big shift, they're threatening Isha, and now she has nowhere to run. Consequences unclear. Will she survive? Tension. Then, new focus, Jinx hood falls off. New element introduced, Jinx's identity is revealed. Big shift, now it's the goons versus Jinx. Consequences unclear. How will they react? How will Jinx react? Tension. Then Jinx shoots them, and then, new focus, Jinx points the gun at Isha. New element introduced, this threat on Isha's life. Big shift, Isha is facing a new enemy. Consequences unclear. What the heck is going on? Why is Jinx even doing this? Tension. Then Jinx's monologue, and and then new focus, Jinx notices the wanted poster. New element introduced, poster. Big shift, they're both focused on Jinx's identity now. Consequences unclear. What does Jinx think about this? How is she going to react to seeing it? What is she going to say? Tension. So this is one scene, but they switch focuses so often it feels like it's 5 different scenes, each with its own building blocks, its own conflicts, its own tensions. And Isha's point of view is crucial here, making the focal point switches so smooth. Our whole experience is directed by what she sees and what she's reacting to. That's what's unifying the scene. It's what prevents the scene from feeling too chaotic, too crowded. And then the other thing that's crucial is how each successive new element appears in the scene before it becomes the focus. We get lots of time of Jinx walking before Isha falls on her. Same with seeing the goons, we know they're there. Once the goons confront Isha, we very clearly see Jinx right behind her. We know who that is. The show wants us to acknowledge that, to be aware of what's coming next. And then throughout all this, we see the wanted posters everywhere. We know they're there, we know that they could come into focus at any time. And that's what ensures that once these things do become the focus, it doesn't feel like a new thing out of the blue, disconnected from everything else. It feels flowy. So that aspect of the scene is just done so well, and for writers, I think it's a great template for how to write fast-paced, engaging scenes that aren't just a series of events happening faster. Characters reacting faster, more concisely written beats, copious use of hooks to drag you along more violently. Those aren't your only tools for making pacing faster. Instead, you can do something like this. You can take a single situation, break it into parts, and use point of view to take us smoothly from focus on one interesting thing to the next interesting thing. Build up a one kind of tension and then release, and then we're into another kind of tension, and then release that, and then we're into another kind of tension. If you can pull that off, that also works so well. Okay, we'll stop here. Subscribe. I mentioned last video I was going to be making something bigger about how Jinx has changed. I definitely have some very big ideas on that, but I'm realizing I should probably wait until the season ends so that I have more data. So stay tuned for that at some point. In the meantime, one way or another, this video is probably being uploaded after Act 2 has already aired. More videos to come about those episodes on individual scenes like this or on bigger topics. We'll see what the episodes bring. Support the channel on Patreon. Shoutouts to new high tier patrons PP Gutso and Yuld. Thank you so much for loving the content so much that you want to give back to me and show appreciation in this more tangible way. That really means a lot. And thanks so much to all my patrons, all my subscribers, all my viewers. You guys mean the world to me. Shoutouts as well to Squirkle and to Terrell for helping me with this scene and specifically helping me to define and understand coolness. Anyway, that is all I got for you now. Hoping everyone is enjoying the new season. I will be back soon with more content. Thanks for watching.